Michael Olajide
Yeah,
Jr., you there, my friend?
I'm sure here. Yeah, thank you. This
Hey,
is
thanks. Sorry I had problem logging on, but I do the same thing. This technical world of ours, we have to adjust to all the different things that go on. But look, we're old friends. We go back a long time. We used to.
yes,
I
yes.
watched him fight years ago at Madison Square Garden at the Old Fell Forum, and
Oh
then
yeah.
sometimes he'd just be sitting there with me at ringside, and we talk up a storm about the sport. It's great to have him here. He was a top middleweight in 1987 and trained at one time by the great late Angelo Dundee, who
Yes.
was the trainer of great late Hall of Fame heavyweight champ Muhammad Ali.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael was 25 5 and 0, 32 bouts. Then he got injured his right eye, and he's blind in that right eye. That's why he wears the patch. He's been an advocate about blindness as well since then. And Michael's not fighting no more, but he's become a coach and an advocate for the good for the sport. Welcome, my friend. It's so good to see you again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been decades, Rich. It's a great time though. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you.
Well, it's good. I see you post a lot on Facebook, and I said, well, we got to reacquaint, put you on to keep in the ring. And Michael, the first thing I got to say, because I know you're a student of the sport,
Yes.
as well as as a former fighter, and you still love it so much as I do. What did you make of Mike Tyson, who you knew, and
Mhm.
Jake Paul? Give
Yeah.
me your brief synopsis and your opinion about that.
Yeah, I think, boy, you want Mike to do great. That's one thing because your love for him. He's just such a part of the such a huge part of the history of the sport, and an incredibly talented fighter he was. So you want him to do well, and then there's another part of you that wants to defend the honor of the sport as well. But there are a lot of things that time, not just time, but time cannot overcome. And what Mike has subject his body to over the decades that he's been fighting from when he was a child up until like 50 years up until now. um, it was just too much to overcome. I don't think it was anything that Jake did that threw him off. Obviously, uh, I think it was the fact that this fight was all about what Mike could not do. It had nothing to do with Jake at all. Jake is pedestrian. He's not even. You know what I mean? I honestly, I'm not saying it just because I like Mike or I'm defending the honor of the sport or anything like that. But Jake did not do anything special that any other fighter could not do. And there's no way that Jake is beating even Mike's last fight when it was a terrible fight. He isn't beating that version of Mike. Never mind what he fought now at 58 years of age, 59 years of age.
Michael Olajide Jr. Michael, did you think, as I did and many did, that this fight was rigged, that it was scripted and it wasn't real, that they had this predetermined already?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to, I don't really, my mind doesn't skew that way. I tend to think it was the way it was. I mean, I thought going in that Mike had at least enough to like hit this kid on the chin and get rid of him. I thought he really could do it in that time, but he went through like this massive blood transfusion, and I don't believe he was really even training for this fight. I really don't. I think that he. I mean, I don't remember seeing him spar at all for this fight. Now, what person trains for a fight and doesn't spar? You know what I mean? I just think there were just too many. It was a money fight. Mike is going to earn a lot of money. Jake's going to earn a lot of money, and everyone else in between is going to get a lot of money out of it. So I believe that
And
was
they did.
almost
They
the cause of
they made a
everything.
lot of money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They made a lot of. I mean, a lot of people said to me, "Oh, Mike doesn't need the money." I'm like, who doesn't need $20 million? Elon Musk would take $20 million. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
And you certainly never made that much money when your career.
No, absolutely not.
And during that era, when I covered your fights, no
Mhm.
fighter made more than to get to $1 million was
Yeah,
tough.
was
To think
like
about what they're
especially on
getting
national
now,
television.
uh, it if you had to talk to Mike now, what would you tell him? Would you tell him don't do this again? It's a risk.
I mean, I don't think Mike really wants to do it. And I just think the offer was just too great for him to say no to. And I think defensively, he had enough to know that. Jake couldn't get to him. He couldn't get to him with anything significant. Mike at least had that down, and Jake did have, like, there was the fear aspect. You see the way he flinched when Mike did something. He
Yeah,
flinched.
that fourth round made everyone say, you know what, this is rigged now because he pulled back and he's telling Mike to hit him. Come get me, come hit him. I mean, you see that during a fight. You do
Yeah,
see that during fights. You know that where fighters taunt each other in that ring. But
yeah,
this was too obvious.
yeah,
It was too obvious. And then Mike, after the fight, says that when he was asked, he said probably again, and he was even challenging uh,
his
Logan
brother.
Paul, Jake's brother, who's in the WWE. And there's a report today that Mike Tyson, Logan Paul, maybe for WrestleMania, which makes sense. That's
Yeah,
scripted. But
yeah.
no Mike Tyson. I don't want to see him in the ring again. I
No, I
don't.
mean, I think they killed the news about Mike getting the blood transfusion until afterwards, and I think that really let a lot of people down. I know it did something to me because if I knew that going in, and he had to do all this medical stuff, like what was it, 9 months ago, and now he's supposed to be recovered and be 100%. I mean, look, I'm 61. I'm 61. If I get in the ring now, my performance is going to be decidedly better than what Mike's was. Do you know what I mean? Blind
Right.
eye, the whole thing. I'm gonna be someone's gonna get hit. We're exchanging punches, you know what I mean? But with Mike,
Exactly.
it wasn't there, and I think that's just because, he just was not, something was impairing his physicality, and that was the blood transfusion and the fact that he didn't train. They didn't have him in sparring because if he was sparring, he'd get hit. And once you get hit, listen, one of the worst things, Rich, that happens to a fighter when they get older, and they don't even have to be old for this to happen. It happened with Wilfredo Benitez and a lot of other fighters in their early 20s. And that there's a burnout, there's a resiliency that you have, and there's when that runs low, it doesn't come back. And that's the
Right.
thing. So the adrenaline that you would usually get before a fight, once it's gone, it never comes. You cannot get it back. It's impossible. And so
No.
Mike had dipped into the well too many times. He dipped into the well in the fights that he lost. He dipped into the well with some of the fights he won as well. And there was sparring and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And after a while, that adrenaline, that just doesn't happen anymore. And what you do is you flatline. And there's absolutely nothing that you can do for it. Like, you feel the pain. You feel every ounce, every inch of pain. If the glove hits you wrong, and when you were young with that adrenaline, that masked everything. There was no pain involved. But now
None at all.
you feel the glove just skin you, and you feel that, and that pain registers in the brain. You start thinking, well, you know what? If I do this, I'm going to get hit. So let me just go into survival mode, because it's humans just don't like pain. That's just the way we're all. No
Right,
animal.
right.
There's no. There's no animal that does,
Those are
right?
great points you bring out, Michael. What about Jake Paul? Can you see him being a legitimate champion one day?
No, absolutely not. No, no. Listen, he's not going to beat Beterbiev. He won't beat Canelo. He won't
No,
beat. Listen, he won't beat. Gervonta Davis would knock him
no,
out. That's all
no.
there is to it. And
Right,
Gervonta
right.
Davis is a
Right.
lightweight,
Yet
and
they
he will
want to.
knock.
They said that they want to go out. They would like to face him because they know how much money could be made, and
Of course.
obviously, they could beat him as
Yes.
well.
Hmm.
And Jake Paul's not going to turn them down, but he will turn them down because he knows he can't beat them.
Yeah, exactly. The
And
equivalent.
until he fights a legitimate fighter, he's
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
best as he claims to be.
No, he's not.
But
And
you
I
got to
think.
give him credit in ways that he propelled Amanda Serrano a lot, got her to where she
Yeah,
is
yeah,
now.
yeah,
And he's
yeah,
also helped the kids. I mean, he
yeah,
does
yeah,
contribute to the
yeah,
gyms in Puerto Rico
yeah,
and helping. That's where he lives, Jake
yeah.
Paul. And,
Uh-huh.
all credit to that. But was this bad for boxing, as I keep saying?
I don't think so, because Mike wouldn't be considered a legitimate boxer right now, right? So Mike was a great talent, and he's a legend in his own right. And but he isn't an active fighter. And if you're fighting somebody, I don't care if you were. You could not even be, if you could be a professional boxer, not even rated in the top 10, top 20, top 100 in the world, and you could fight somebody who's absolutely like there just aren't that anymore, and you don't get the credit for it. You know what I mean? It's just you can't get the credit for that win, and that's as a professional fighter. So
Mm.
someone like Jake isn't going to get it. It's expected. It really is expected. I mean, he's had 4 years experience in the ring. Jake
Right. And
has.
he's getting better. There's no doubt about it. His right has got better. There's a little more speed in him, all that stuff.
Yeah,
But still, I mean, you can't tell until he fights that legitimate guy. And he
yeah.
hasn't done that.
He
Michael,
hasn't.
what are you doing these days? Why don't you update us what's going on in your life?
Boy, well, I'm doing an online fitness workout. It's at systemofsilk.com, and it's an incredible workout series coming up. And it's just, so I've been into fitness boxing for a long time, and it's really helped me in terms of having an energy, something to do with the energy. I had to start boxing at 25, 26 years of age with the eye
Yeah.
injuries.
That injury came to your eye in the fight with Marvin Hagler. Am I right?
Well, it was actually, I thought, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually versus Tommy Hearns, but it happened in
Tommy
actually
Hearns, right.
in '86. I was sparring at Gleason's when it used to be on 7th Avenue, over by the Garden, and I caught a real bad punch in the eye, and then so it was bad then, but it got worse in 1989. I was sparring with Murky Sosa. If you know Murky, Murky's a monster. Oh my God, he's
Right, right. He was. Yeah.
yeah, and I caught a punch under the eye, and that dropped it, and that just like whipped a hole in the socket and just dropped the eyeball.
Yeah, and that was
And
it. You
yeah,
sustained damage. So you're
yeah,
legally blind in the right eye.
completely blind in the right eye, and
Yeah.
so now I make patches. I make patches for people that actually that have orbital floor fractures, and they have double vision, or they have a thing called amblyopia, which is what kids suffer from. When they have like one eye is kind of not
Yes.
tracking with the other.
I'm
So
familiar with I'm very familiar with the eyes and the vision problems because
there you
yours
go.
truly here had two corneal transplants. So I'm
There
very
you go.
familiar with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have to cover one eye so the other one learns to track, right?
Yeah.
So
But you
I have,
function well. You function well enough to continue to do what you got to do on a daily basis
yeah,
since
yeah,
that injury over the
yeah.
years.
Mhm.
And your fight career, you also fought a friend of mine, a Hall of Famer from the Bronx, Iran Barkley.
Oh
That
yeah.
was another one. I know you don't want to remember that fight, but I
I had
covered
no
that fight. I
choice.
remember it well.
Yeah, it's a part of
Yeah.
my history. Yeah, we
Yeah.
really went at it, and it was billed Big Apple Bad Blood. It was on NBC and everything, and it was exactly that because Iran and I would get along. We got along really well initially. Then it got a little bit tempestuous, and I know a
As it
lot of
always
fighters.
does. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it always does.
understandable.
But the
Yeah.
closer you get to the
Uh,
fight, yeah, and
Bree,
there's respect afterwards.
what do you remember about working with Angelo Dundee in your corner?
Angelo Dundee was an incredible, like, he understands the psyche of a fighter, and that's irreplaceable. Like, a lot of trainers don't have that. Your day to day trainer doesn't have the psyche, he doesn't understand the fight pattern. Like he understands there's a plan and a program you have to go in order to defeat an individual. So he's in your corner for that, and he follows. He's really great at being able to do that. Angelo is not your everyday trainer. That's I had Hector Roca for that, and every single other fighter, Michael Nunn, that fought with Angelo. They had like that daily trainer with him. Angelo's not going to hold mitts for you. He'll give you suggestions on the bag, and he'll tell you what to do, and he'll get you psychologically ready. But he isn't the day-to-day grunt work. He's not doing that with you.
You don't
But he
you
was
don't you
next.
don't you don't find trainers like him much more no more.
No,
You
no.
just don't do it.
It's,
And so you're living in New York or you're
I
up in
live in New York
Canada?
City. Yeah, I live in New
Right.
York
All right.
City. I've been living
We
here
got to meet
since.
up, have dinner or something. I got to catch up with you face to
Yeah,
face
that's great.
and talk to sport.
How you loving your show?
It's going. It's not an easy sell, but it's picking up, and I've got some. I love doing it. I do this for the fans. I do it
Yes.
for the fans, and me. I'm boxing. That's my love,
Yeah.
my passion. Plus all
Yeah.
contact sport. Do you take an interest in the sport now as much as you did before? You follow it, obviously.
Yeah. I
And who
follow
do
it.
you who do you look at as the top fighters right now today?
Uh, Today, I mean, I have to say, Javante Davis. I really love what he does. Like physically and mentally, he brings everything together, and he always comes 100%. I really like that about him. Terrence Crawford, of course, I like him. The kid Noye,
From
from Japan.
Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an incredible athlete. He's an incredible boxer. I'd like to see him, obviously he's going to get bigger fights and we're going to find out the real deal. You know what I mean? But I like what he does. He's pure fighter, and I really like that about him. There's no distractions. He's all about one thing, and that's defeating the person,
Right.
and usually by KO, right? So you love the
It, it,
definitive methods.
in your opinion, is Canelo Alvarez or Terrence Bud Crawford the best pound for pound? I hate saying pound for pound best,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
what
yeah.
is your take on that?
For skills, when I look at the skills of a fighter, the ability, I have to say Javante Davis for me is the best fighter in the world. I
Hmm.
think pound for pound Javante is and again, I'm not with that term either, but we got to use it. That's the one that's coming out with. So I think for the person that does everything, like is a blanket, like he can box, he can infight, he can do all the things. He can also punch. He also could take a great shot. I mean, I just say Javante Davis is probably the most well-rounded, talented individual, and Usyk is up there. Obviously, is like probably
Yeah.
number two or so for
Who do
me.
you like in the
One is
rematch? Who do you like in that rematch, December 21st for the heavyweight title?
Oh
Usyk or
yeah. So
Fury?
initially, you know what? Initially, I called that fight for Usyk. I thought he would. I thought he would thump Fury, and I believe he will again. I don't think it can get any better for Fury. I don't see how, unless he comes out there and he tries to. I thought the only option that he had to beat Usyk in the first place was to do what he did to Klitschko, and that's kind of like suffocate him,
Right. Well,
lay on him, all
the
that type
state
of
of the heavy division always calls to me is the face of the sport, boxing,
yeah,
and hopefully
yeah,
that'll be determined quickly. Mike, before I let you
for sure.
go, those days at the Felt Forum when you fought, and I
Yeah,
covered those fights.
yeah,
That was great. That was an era in the sport. The sport was really on a high then too,
yes,
in the early
yes, yes.
'90s, late '80s, and
Yes.
Madison Square Garden fell form, had shows every 2 weeks. You were a part of
Yes.
that. I was a part of
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Quickly, what is
Yes.
one thing that comes to mind about that old school day at the Garden at the Fell Forum?
I remember I just a couple of weeks ago went to a promotion and they had a fight in the Fell Forum. It's not the Fell Forum anymore, but it brought back
At the
such
Hulu Theater,
memories.
yeah,
Yeah, the Hooters. It brought back such memories. I hadn't been in there since I fought. So I sat in
yeah,
there and I looked up and I saw the ring is in the same place and the stage is in the
right,
same
right.
place. Obviously the interior design has changed, but the actual physicality of the place is still exactly right there the way it was. And it brought back those
A
memories
lot
of
of
those great
memories.
times. Yeah, I mean Tyson was on
Did
that.
you think about getting back in the ring when you were there?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's a young man's game, right? Obviously.
As Michael Olajide Jr. Well, this was great reuniting with you, and we are going to meet up face to face soon. I
I
promise you
look
that.
forward to it.
Uh, what are you doing now, briefly, and how do fans
Yeah,
reach out to you?
thank
Tell
you.
us.
Well, right now I'm developing these fitness workouts. They're really amazing at systemofsilk.com. And SOS is like the acronym for it. So it's really cool because fitness is so important and it's
Yes,
just,
it is. Maybe I, for one, that I might need to come to you to get in shape again.
please come on through. And I'm working with young fighters. I'm working with an amateur fighter right now that's going to be significant. You're going to be significant down the road. He's going to be somebody. He has a talent, and there's a way in which you teach. And it's funny because all the experiences that I've had, I get a chance to use them now, and it's really exciting to me. It's fun, and it makes it easier for the kid I'm training, and it's sort of fulfilling to myself. I didn't get a chance to fulfill what I thought was
Where do
my
you do that? At home or in a gym or in a
no, in the
facility?
gym. So there are a couple of gyms here in New York. There's one up on 125th Street, Mendez,
Hmm.
and there's one down on like Broadway and Lafayette, which is Work Train Fight, and the amateur. It's getting competitive here again, and Gleason's Gym out in Brooklyn, of course,
Right,
and
right.
Sonia Lamonicus and the American Boxing
Right.
Association.
So
So it's
how
really
do
cool.
How do fans reach you? How do they reach out to you? Where do they get you? On Facebook?
Yeah, they can get me on Facebook at my name, Michael Olajide Jr., or I'm also on Instagram under the same. El Cuerpo de Papi. If you speak Spanish, that's Body Daddy. That's a fitness
Of
thing.
course.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, Michael Olajide Jr. at either one, Facebook or Instagram.
All right.
And
We'll
I'm
run
there.
that by the fans again and keep in touch, Michael. And
Thank you so
you
much.
finally, is the sport healthy or is this sport obsolete to many? What do
I
you
think the
think?
sport is, boxing is eternally evolving, and sometimes it drops back, and sometimes it goes forward, but it's always on the tip of people's tongue because boxing is the true measure of athleticism and the true measure of a man. It really is.
Yeah.
Boxing is something that where it's not like MMA. You can do everything. You can elbow, you can kick, you can
Right.
choke them out, all the rest of that kind of stuff. But boxing and its limitations is like an absolutely strong sport. So
Yes. I think
you can't do all the other things, but you can.
despite all the controversy and despite what I say and what we saw with Paul Tyson and everything, I think the sport is thriving. It's just
Yeah,
that it's not on TV, television, where people can see it regularly. You
yeah,
have to get a streaming network and you have to pay
yeah.
for it. But
Yeah,
there's
you have to pay for it.
superstars in the sport, and they got us, the old timers,
Yeah,
who talk
yeah.
about it to keep it thriving.
There
And
you
that's you,
go.
Michael
And
Olajide
fighters
Jr.
get paid more today than they did at
Yeah.
any time
Oh,
in
I
boxing.
know.
You
Well, we
know.
don't as broadcasters and writers, but the fighters do. But
Yeah.
Michael Olajide Jr., this has been a pleasure to reunite with you. Great insights on Paul Tyson and so much more. And we're sure going to be in touch. And I will meet up with you soon, face to
My
face,
pleasure.
and we'll
Yes.
relive the whole times. Thanks for your time, champ.
Yes,
Really
sir. Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
brother.
Keep up the
Appreciate
great
you.
work. I'll be in touch.
All the best,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you. I look
Thank you,
forward to it.
Michael. Great seeing
Peace
you
out.
again. Michael
Bye.
Olajide Jr.